Welcome to the All About Alts podcast, where we explore the world of alternative investing to help you find financial independence. Join our host, NewView Trust's president, Jason DeBono, as he covers a variety of topics with different guest speakers to discuss tax and alternative investing strategies. It is never too late to start taking control of your financial future, and we are so excited for you to be joining us for this opportunity to hear from some of the best in the business.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the All About Alts podcast. My name is Jason DeBono. I'm the host, and I am joined with Taylor Ledwith today from PadSplit, which is a super cool concept. Excited to talk about that. But Taylor, welcome to the show.
Hey, guys. Thanks so much for having me. Excited to share more about it.
Well, I met Taylor a couple months ago at an event, and I had heard about PadSplit, but I hadn't actually understood it or gotten to know it. I have some clients that have talked about it, and so it was I was probably that annoying client that was peppering her with all kinds of questions. So I thought, what a great guest to bring on to the show and really help her give us some insights into the way that PadSplit is kind of revolutionizing some of the ways that people are renting out their properties and finding properties. Is that fair?
Absolutely. Yeah, let's do it.
Cool. Well, let's start with a little bit about your background and getting to know you a tad bit more, and we'll certainly spend a lot of time on PadSplit. You're a Massachusetts native. You went to school at Worcester.
It's a tough one. Worcester State.
Yeah, it's like Worcestershire, and I want to say it with confidence. I just can't seem to get there. But you came out of school and you got into the beverage side of the world. So nothing in the real estate side, sales, marketing. Talk a little bit about that. What were you looking for when you got out of school, and kind of what were your goals and objectives?
Yeah, well, I studied communications in school, and I loved marketing. So I got into the marketing side of things. Through a couple different beverage companies, and it was a lot of fun. But marketing is kind of like the psychology behind why people buy things, and so I kind of wanted to transition into the sales side of things eventually, and kind of test out people to people. I love working with new people and just kind of getting to know what they need and how to make their lives easier. So I kind of transitioned into sales eventually, and then I ended up kind of scrapping it all and moving down to Florida eventually, and found PadSplit.
Oh, that's an interesting journey. So you career changed and geographically changed almost at the same time.
Yeah, it's tough in sales. When you're thinking about like your morals and your values. And I was kind of finding myself wanting to be a part of something bigger or more important. And I kind of stumbled across PadSplit, and, I was doing research, and I just thought it was too good to be true. I thought it was like the coolest company I'd ever heard of. And then throughout the interview process, every person that I met at the company was just so incredible and so genuine, and really, really cared about the mission. So I'm really happy to have found PadSplit. I've been here for almost 2 years, and I still feel like I struck gold. So.
Cool. Well, that's a sign of being in a place that you belong. And so beverages to real estate. Most people, especially those longtime investors listening to the show, usually they start with real estate, and beverages are just a natural accompaniment to being in the real estate business. So, here you are. You're now at joined PadSplit. You're out. You have a unique, both opportunity but also challenge, and that is that you're not selling a product most people know much about, myself included, having been in the real estate business for a long time. It took me a second to kind of wrap my arms around the concept of PadSplit. We'll certainly get to what PadSplit does and how it works, but just, how do you find yourself navigating that in the marketplace in terms of being kind of that educator of really, I won't say a new industry, but certainly a newer industry?
Yeah, it was definitely a learning curve for sure. I when I first started, I think I called every single person that I knew in any field of real estate, like every hour of the day, just to kind of pick their brains, and watching YouTube videos and podcasts, and just trying to soak up as much information about real estate as I could. What I found is that my position in this company, my role is to really work pretty closely with these investors, and it's more of a consultative approach. So, I have to know everything about PadSplit, and I also have to know everything else about all the other exit strategy options, because I really want them to make the best investment choice possible. So it was definitely a learning curve, but I spend a lot of time with my investors, and they've taught me a lot, and it's been a lot of fun.
Well, real estate's it's an amazing industry, and it's not without its challenges, but certainly a fun industry to be part of.
Yeah.
So I've got to ask, you moved from Massachusetts down to Tampa. Now I'm a Florida guy my whole life, and so I'm always curious. Was it the weather that brought you down, and PadSplit was the job you found while you were here, or was it PadSplit that you found and they just happened to have an opportunity in Tampa?
The stars kind of aligned on that one. I moved down here first without a plan. My family used to come down here all the time to Tampa to visit. For some weird reason, my brother is like a diehard Bucks fan. So we spent a lot of time down here growing up, and I always knew I wanted to live here. And my previous job, they announced they were, closing the offices for good after COVID. They were never going back in office. And I was like, hey, I'm leaving. I'm skipping town. So came down here, and as soon as I did, they had just opened the Tampa market here. So they were looking for somebody to really kind of build it up from the ground up. And I took it on, and now it's been growing like crazy.
How cool. What a fun leap of faith. Sometimes it's hard to pack up your bags and head any direction. But it sounds like it was not just a good choice for the son and enjoyment of Tampa. So out to be a really good decision.
Yeah, absolutely. I love waking up to the palm trees every day. It never gets old.
Yeah. Well, Florida obviously has been a major benefactor. You mentioned kind of the little nudge that did help, propel your journey down to Florida was COVID and offices closing. And we hear that story a lot, people working remote. And as a result, Florida, along with a lot of the Sun Belt states, have been benefactors of that. I'm assuming, but that's probably putting a lot of fuel in the fire of what's driving PadSplit and their ability to solve both the investor side, but also to help individuals on the identifying properties to reside in.
Yeah, absolutely. This area is definitely growing at a rapid rate right now. There's a crazy amount of people moving down to Tampa, and there's a lot of new businesses and just all these cities around here expanding. So there's a lot of workforce, working class people. We need some more workforce housing, and it's been great for both the investors and the members.
Yeah, it's a little bit of that perfect storm. Well, we'll transition maybe here in just a minute and really dig into what PadSplit's doing and kind of how they're disrupting the marketplace a little bit and creating some opportunity for a lot of different groups. But we're going to take a quick pause, and we're going to ask Maggie to bring over the envelopes. We're going to go over to the quirky questions of the day. So Taylor, are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. Now, as always, if you have questions, thank you, Maggie. If you guys want to submit questions, please do so to Maggie with a Y at newviewtrust.com. All right, 3 questions. Here we go. Number 1, do you believe aliens exist?
Yes, 100%.
Okay, 100%. What's the confidence born out of? Is it the movies have been that good, or is there something else we need to know?
I feel like they told us that UFOs existed, and everybody just glossed over it. And I definitely believe that there's some aliens up there watching us crazy kids on Earth right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, there you have it. 100% confidence. Number 2, what's the weirdest talent that you have?
Interesting. The weirdest talent that I have. I'm batting 100 here for guessing people's baby genders. All of my friends at this point, when they find out that they're pregnant, they'll come right to me and be like, "What do you think I'm having?" And I've never been wrong. So
wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, if you're listening today and you're pregnant or thinking about getting pregnant, I think Taylor will put her contact info in the show notes, if for nothing else, specifically for gender identification as early in the process as possible. So any tricks on that, or is it just all intuition?
Just intuition. I don't know. I have to be in front of them though. Like I kind of got to get a feel for it.
Okay. Number 3, and this one's somewhat ironic, given where you're from, but if your hometown was a food, what food would it be?
Ooh. My hometown is a food. I feel like it's got to be a grinder. Do you guys call them grinders? You call them subs?
We call them subs, but familiar with grinders. Why a grinder? Is that the
grinder? I don't know. It's very Massachusetts to me. Maybe I should have picked something more like New Englandy, but over in the Western Mass half, there's it's not too much going on out there where I'm from. But yeah, our grinders out there are pretty cool.
Okay. Well, there you have it, Taylor. Thank you so much. You have survived and I think passed with flying colors the quirky questions of the day.
Those were quirky.
Yeah, they're that segment is so much fun, and I don't read them or see them until I pull them out. So sometimes I'm equally as kind of surprised by some of the questions. So I think the audience may have they let you off the hook a little bit today, having read some of the ones previously. So well done.
Thanks, guys.
All right, well let's turn over to PadSplit. I kind of understood it at a high level, but didn't really know all the intricacies. And I loved getting to know it a bit more because I think it's so cool. But maybe for those that aren't familiar or don't have the familiarity with PadSplit or in detail, what does PadSplit do at a high level?
Yeah, so at a higher level, PadSplit is a marketplace for shared housing. And our main mission is to help solve the affordable housing shortage, specifically for the workforce in our communities that can't afford the rising rent rates these days.
Okay, so kind of taking that a step further, PadSplit, is the community. PadSplit is the technology. Help a little bit for me too, but also for our listeners, kind of understand where do you guys interject into a property and how do you interface with the owner of that property as well as the potential, people that are going to be living in that property?
Yeah. So it's a marketplace similar to, Airbnb or Uber. If you were going to buy a house and put it on Airbnb, it's a kind of a similar feel here. So, and we're pretty involved in the process, which is nice. We're still at an early enough stage here where we have the manpower to kind of walk these investors through the process and be really hands-on throughout it so that you're not alone. It's definitely a new strategy and a newer model. So it can be a little tough of a learning curve, but you've got, me or one of my teammates to kind of guide you throughout that process. But what it kind of looks like is, once your property is ready to go, PadSplit will handle all of the marketing of that listing. We'll take care of all of the background checks and screening of the members, placing them in the units, collecting rent for you guys, and dealing with all of the, member-to-member issues that might come up throughout the process. And then on the other side of things for the members, so they also have their kind of, dashboard of the marketplace where they're able to apply and get approved for rooms that they can afford that are fully furnished and ready for move-in. So it's a really nice kind of win-win for both sides.
So I've got a rental property, right? It's a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house. If I go to an Airbnb or VRBO, they're really just providing the marketing to, the individuals looking for something typically shorter duration to stay, although I suppose you could do much longer duration. In PadSplit, I take the same 3-bedroom, 2-bath house, but I'm renting it out to 3 individuals through PadSplit that you guys are screening, identifying, cultivating their membership and then putting them into that property. Is that right?
Yeah, so that's exactly right. Typically, it also calls for, most hosts will add in bedrooms. So if you have a 3-bed, 2-bath, most of the time that'll get converted into, a 5-bedroom PadSplit by converting the living room or the dining room, any common area space into additional bedrooms to really kind of maximize on that square footage in there.
Okay, so let's That's something that's even new to me. So let's kind of dig a little on that.
Okay.
So I've got a 3-2 and I've got a, formal dining room and a living room area.
Hmm.
Is the idea that really there is no communal or need for communal space. This is work. So you need a kitchen and an area, and then you need bedrooms. And is that kind of the idea?
Yeah. So, in this kind of model here, about 85% of our members are working somewhere in the community physically. Not a lot of work from home in this, this member community. So a lot of people are out all day. They're all on different schedules, and they just kind of come home and go to their clean, locked room, and they're just kind of chilling in there until, till they're off again. So there's not a lot of shared space, and you don't really need it besides the kitchens and the bathrooms there. Yeah.
Okay. Now, obviously, I've got 5 bedrooms that are rentable as opposed to 3.
Mhm.
If my 3-bedroom, 2-bath is renting for $1,500 a month to a family, how did you just help me kind of compare and contrast that down to turning it into a 5-bedroom, house? And then what does that look like rent wise? Obviously, you can't quote a house you don't see, but just give a kind of a ballpark.
Yeah. So, I mean, typically on the same property that you would collect around, on that one, if you say you collect around like 2,000 on it or a little less, maybe, in Tampa, the average here is about $200 a week per room. So on that same property, you'd be looking at around, 4,300 a month in rent. So it's a nice little, yeah, that the margins, like that extra space that you're working with, the amount of bedrooms that you can add there. That's really where the numbers start to do some magic on that rent. Most hosts are able to double, sometimes triple their rental income on the same property.
That's incredible. And let's talk about kind of the management. I understand PadSplit is not necessarily the property manager, but more the member manager. How does that work for someone that's kind of listening, going, yeah, I want to go from $2,000 to $4,000? What does that look like? What do you guys take off their plate? And then what's the stuff as let's just say a landlord that I keep on my plate?
Mm-hmm. So once the property is ready to go, and also, I mean, a value add is that, you have me to kind of help you throughout that process as well, and connect you with any pieces of the puzzle. So if you, think this sounds like a great idea and you're like, I don't know how to do it, I have probably every person that you would need throughout this process to help you along. Then your property is ready to go. You'll list it on PadSplit, and we will market that listing. We're continuously doing marketing to get new members that are, ready to go and book that room as soon as it's ready to be booked. And then we will collect rent for you guys on a weekly basis. We handle all of the individual membership agreements. We put it all up on a nice, beautiful dashboard for you online, so that no matter how hands-on or passive you choose to be, you can still see what's going on in your property. And then dealing with any, member to member stuff. So in a model like this, there's a lot of, Johnny ate my peanut butter and Tina hogs the bathroom every morning and things like that. And so we want to handle all of that stuff 24/7, so you guys don't have to. At that point, really all that's left on the host's plate, and what most hosts do, is hire a property manager for this. But they will take care of any maintenance calls, and then just cleaning and flipping the rooms when somebody moves out.
What's a typical duration? I'm sure it varies, but what's a typical duration of someone in one of these rooms?
Yeah, so in Florida, the members have a separate agreement, compared to our other markets, because of the short-term rental space. But in Florida, when members first get approved, they have to commit to at least 6 months plus 1 day to get you out of that short-term hotel housing bubble. From there, they'll renew week by week. So they'll typically set it up with their paychecks. But on average, the average length of stay is about 8 to 10 months at a time.
Well,
So if that property is, managed well and they're comfy there, they'll usually use it as a pretty large stepping stone to, get to a better point. And it's cool to watch. Some of our members have been staying here for years. We've watched members leave because they were able to save so much and boost their credit score, and they went off and bought their own house or bought their own PadSplit even, which is amazing to see. So it's a really full circle moment there.
Well, that's really cool to see people. You never want to see people exit, obviously, but that's a good exit for a lot of people.
Yeah.
You mentioned something about buying their own pad split. Can this be owner occupied? Can I live in the master and rent out my other rooms on pad split? Is that permissible?
As for right now, we don't do that.
Okay.
We're always making changes. We're a startup, so we're always, looking for feedback and ways to improve. So it could be something in the future, but as for right now, it's got to be, the whole house is
Got
all
it.
of the pad split. All the rooms are up for grabs.
Okay.
Yeah.
Um, so you mentioned you guys collect the rent. So you guys are managing that process, collecting the rent, and you're putting that rent, obviously in some account that the owner of the property has.
Mhm.
How are you handling non-payment or anything along those lines? Is that the normal eviction process that I would go through as the property owner? Or is there a little bit of a different process?
Yeah, so we're very member focused, and I have to give it to our collections team. They work really hard to, not only keep a tight leash on the payments themselves, but also just kind of work with the members and, staying true to our mission and really trying to work with the members to get them to a point that they can, figure this out. So
Yeah.
how it kind of works is, we do a lot of things early on to set expectations. We set an approval amount for them using their income and their credit score. And once we've set that amount, they can't see anything above that. So they can't really shoot for the moon
Okay.
and try to book a room they can't afford. And then from there, the threshold that they are allowed to get to is $300, which is typically a week and a half of rent. And right away if if we're starting this process, compared to, a month goes by and you're on your
Yeah.
long-term rental. And then from there, we'll kind of start the process of, reaching out. The first step is to reach out and, kind of talk to them, see what's going on. Is there, something that came up, an emergency, or is there anything that, we can do to kind of alleviate this problem? And, if it is kind of a special case like that, like this, just kind of happened to one of my hosts, and he had a great member in there. He was there for a while, always paid on time, but had some car troubles and, wasn't expecting a huge expense. And they were able to kind of work it out with the host and that member, and they came to an agreement. But they'll, if they can't pay, or if it's not, anything like that, they'll kind of just have that conversation. It's kind of like the easy way, hard way conversation of, we won't put an eviction on your record. We won't, come for collections, just peacefully exit. And most of the time they do. It's very rare that, an eviction has to happen. And in that case, it's, the property managers will usually handle that for you guys.
Sure.
Kind of got a process there in place, but yeah.
Yeah, and evictions are part of, any rental. You're going to end up at some point, usually, with an eviction. I really liked what you said, and because, having had rental properties, it really is nice to know that something's going bad, in a week and a half. Whereas when you collect rent monthly, you can get a story for a couple of months and you're really only 2 payments behind. Whereas that same story is only 2 weeks in the PadSplit model.
Yeah. And what's nice too is that you're not hedging everything on that one paycheck. If one person is getting evicted from one room, you've still got the other, 5 or 6 rooms in the house that are paying. So you're not completely out on that whole property, which is nice.
Yeah, it really is. It's almost taking residential single family and making it start to resemble a little bit of that multifamily approach, which is nice from an income and asset management. If someone's going out looking for property, you mentioned something that I've seen bedrooms be added.
Mhm.
You've got bonus rooms or stuff, offices converted to bedrooms, and I've seen that. But I've never seen kind of some of the common area be converted into bedrooms. What are some of the considerations, or what are some of the things that you've seen, and why, and how has that been, a good thing for this property owner to do as it relates to, kind of maximizing the PadSplit value or opportunity?
Yeah. So, I mean, in terms of just kind of like a wider view of this for, looking for properties. And this is one of the most beneficial things I think is, so great about PadSplit. It's kind of opening your buy box to some areas that you wouldn't maybe look in before, wouldn't think there's a lot of value in. Typically if you want this kind of cash flow, you're starting to think about, Airbnb or short-term rental space. And for that, you kind of have to look for, nicer neighborhoods, more desirable locations, pools, kind of more luxury to hit that cash flow number. Whereas with PadSplit, you're able to look in these, working class neighborhoods with cheaper purchase prices and still turn it around and make a really great return on it. So, some of those things that you want to look for in terms of a location is, being close to public transportation. About half of our members take the bus, the other half drive cars. So you want to be close to those metro areas where there's a lot of businesses around and public transit, a lot of happening stuff. And you want to be looking for, maybe like a 3-2 or a 4-2 at minimum, with lots of common area space, with windows to work with, and to add in those bedrooms, because really that extra common area space is where the money is made. So that's definitely the big stuff to look for.
And from a common area space, is that something that can you eliminate all of it? And obviously I understand there's probably some parameters and there's some homeowner discretion, but just from your experience, is there any demand or any requirement of any of the PadSplit members that, beyond the kitchen and let's say the bathrooms, which are necessities, does it matter if there's a couch in there or a communal TV, or is it actually better to get away from that?
Yeah, with this model, there's a couple, it's different for sure. And that's one thing that, new people, when they first hear about it, they're like, there's no living room. But, just because of the nature of this, it's built for single working adults only. So there's no couples, no kids, no overnight guests allowed. And with that, you kind of want to have all the space accounted for and generating money. If there are common area spaces left, they typically don't really get used, or they'll just kind of create more issues. Bad things happen on couches, so let's just try to avoid them at all costs.
Yeah, no, I can see that. And thinking about this, as a, someone in the workforce that's looking for a place, you don't need, especially if you can find something that's significantly less than what it would cost to go get a full apartment. So you have the necessities, but it really does seem like it's solving a major challenge. I mean, I know here in Florida, affordable housing, workforce housing is just so hard to come by, especially in some of the busier areas. And people are commuting, whether it be Disney area, Miami area, they're having to commute 45 minutes to 2 hours just to find somewhere affordable to live.
Yeah, I think there's, a massive pool of people, and most people don't even realize, how big the number is of people that are stuck in the middle. Sometimes people hear low income and they think, maybe government housing or something along those lines, but low income is technically anything under $55,000 a year. And that's what you need to make to afford today's studio apartment. So, the people that are in the middle between that 30,000 to that 55,000 a year, it's like a third of our workforce. It's a really scary number that don't have an option for housing.
Yeah.
It's nice to see these cities, a lot of cities are starting to move in the direction of, changing their kind of zoning regulations and allowing shared housing, because they know that we're running out of space for people. There needs to be a solution here. So they kind of have to, move in that direction, which is really nice.
So you mentioned kind of cities, what cities is PadSplit in, and maybe not to name them all, but is it universal? Is it, certain states? How can someone that's listening today, get a kind of an understanding of that and maybe figure out whether they're considering the host side or even the membership side? How does that look? And what can you kind of provide that gives us a little bit of insight?
Yeah, absolutely. So for Florida, we started originally in Atlanta, Georgia. That's where we've been the longest. But we've expanded a lot since then. So in Florida, we have Tampa, Jacksonville, Orlando, and we just opened Miami.
Okay.
And then we've got a couple other states as well. So we've got in Texas, we have Dallas and Houston. We've got Phoenix, Las Vegas, Richmond, Virginia, New Orleans. And we're opening Kansas City and Baltimore as well. So we're starting to really expand here and definitely looking towards going national fairly soon. So that'll be really exciting. But yeah, those are our kind of core markets for right now. I would definitely focus on, and Florida is killing it.
Yeah, well, given the marketplace and demand, that's not surprising at all. What from a PadSplit standpoint, what haven't we talked about that is really cool or unique, or something that the listeners may not think about that either PadSplit offers or does?
Yeah, I think just kind of the ways that you can be involved in it. So if you're already looking at, if you already have properties that maybe aren't cash flowing enough, like a lot of people with, long-term rentals, for example, after all is said and done, they might be only cash flowing a couple $100 or not at all sometimes. So, you can always convert things that already exist. Like I said earlier, you can go out and purchase, properties for pretty cheap and turn them around for, a really great return. You can also become a vendor partner as well. So like I had mentioned earlier, in this process, we work with, lenders, real estate agents, property managers, every piece of this puzzle. So, our referral system, our investors are buying up stuff pretty quickly. So it kind of improves your business a lot, whatever market you're in. And then we have referrals as well. So if you're kind of, like, oh, this is a great idea, but I don't, not for me quite yet. We give $1,000 to every person that you send over that becomes a host. So it's a pretty nice little treat.
Wonderful. Well, as far as getting a hold of you and getting onto PadSplit, we can drop all that contact information into the show notes, but is there a place you recommend people go? Is it the website, or is there, something specific that's best?
Yeah, I would either shoot me an email, taylor@padsplit.com. I'll also provide I can provide my calendar link and my office line as well, so that you guys can reach out a couple different ways. But the first step is really just to have an introductory call, where we can kind of, just get to know each other one-on-one. I really like to get to know the investor themselves, like where you're at in your strategy. What are your long-term goals with investing, and how can PadSplit kind of be the vehicle to get there?
Wonderful. Well, we'll make sure all of that contact info and communication info is into the show notes. So let's bring it down the home stretch here, and we'll kind of hit into our lightning round. I think we're going to go geographics today. So we'll start with question number one: sunshine or snow?
Ooh, sunshine. I do miss the snow,
okay.
though. I
What's
do
that?
miss the snow.
Yeah, well, the snow becomes a lot more fun when you get to go visit it and then pack up and leave it. So sunshine it is. All right. Number two, and I don't know if you've had the full experience and exposure here in Florida, but as a guy that loves to lobster, there's a real strong debate what lobster is better: spiny lobster, right? Florida Caribbean lobster, or the clawed lobster, the New England cold water lobster.
New England all day, 100%.
All right. Now, have you had the spiny lobster? Is that based on a just assumption, or have you truly put it to the test?
I don't know if this is like a special lobster. I have had lobster down here, and it definitely it doesn't compare to Maine. But
Okay.
that's where I would definitely, New England's the place to go for lobster for sure.
Fair enough. Well, as someone that loves to catch the spiny lobsters, truth be told, I'd rather eat Maine lobster as well. So
I'm gonna have to look into that.
Don't tell anyone. All right, last question here in our lightning round, and that is beverages or real estate. You've done both. Which one you choosing?
Real estate all day. It's such a fun industry, and it's so much to learn. It's always changing. It's very exciting. And also everybody I meet through this, like all these investors are just so great to work with, so great to learn from. Everybody is so willing to share all their knowledge, and it's real estate all day.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. And I think what you said is kind of a good way to wrap up the show. Everybody in this industry is so willing to help. And for those of you listening that are just unsure whether you're unsure about investing, whether you're unsure about, turning a property into PadSplit, or whether you're unsure about how all of it works, visit your local real estate investment groups or clubs or organizations. There's plenty of them out there, but just ask people. And, you've mentioned that a couple times, and I can, think in my career in real estate, how many people have just answered questions. And even to our discussion, Taylor, I didn't know the first thing about PadSplit, and 10 minutes later, I felt like it really is. It's definitely, something that people are always willing to share.
Yeah, I would definitely that was a big turning point when I started just going to every networking event possible and just talking to everybody. That was a big turning point. So I would just get out there. There's so many people that are new and learning, and everybody's happy to help. So definitely get out there if you're looking to learn.
Yeah, it's a fun group. Well, we close every single show with the Learn Before You Burn segment. This is our opportunity to have our guests share a lesson that they learned through experience, but hopefully, right, our listeners can get that same lesson, but not have to deal with touching the hot stove of the experience side of things. So, Taylor, what is your Learn Before You Burn advice to our listeners today?
Is this PadSplit focused or just in general?
Anything in general. It's totally up to you. Okay.
I would say to just be adaptable. I would say I used to get kind of in the groove of what I was comfortable with. And since moving down here and since getting into real estate and working at this, crazy startup life, you definitely have to learn how to just adjust and kind of pull an audible and go in a different direction, and just always be constantly, looking for ways to improve and change on things. So that'd be my piece of advice.
I love it. There you have it. Be adaptable. As they say, get comfortable being uncomfortable. So, being in a newer business line, in a startup, I can only imagine that creates a whole lot of requirements to be adaptable, and great advice, I think, for our listeners. Taylor, any last parting words before we wrap up today?
No, this was awesome. I'm looking forward to hopefully meeting some of the listeners someday, and getting some more PadSplit hosts on here.
Awesome. Well, Taylor, thank you so much. For everyone listening, if you have not hit the like, share, or subscribe button, please do. Also, if you've been listening and have some feedback, we'd love a 5-star review. That helps us build our community. As always, the All About Alts podcast is going to continue to bring on great guest speakers like Taylor to help us understand and navigate the investment world, but also doing it in a tax advantage or tax-free manner. So thank you guys so much for joining us, and we'll look forward to seeing you on the next show.
Thanks for having me, Jason.
Thanks, Taylor.
Thank you so much for listening. We hope the information within this podcast has given you the tools that you need to find your way to financial independence. We would love to partner with you on this journey. Text ALTS, that's ALTS, to 407-708-1853 to learn more about how to get started today. Don't forget to follow us to make sure you don't miss a second of content, and we'll see you next week.